Hey guys, in today's My Life with ADHD, we're going to talk about maintaining your work routine while on the road. So this is actually my second take on the topic, and I'm re-recording it because I thought I had a video where I talked about how difficult it is to work on the road. Going through my YouTube, I found that I deleted it. I guess I just wasn't happy with the tone. So I'm going to try to combine the two into one video. So, as of 2 weeks ago, I'd been gone from my Nashville work environment for about 2 months solid. And I'm including cons and con prep because it takes me out of my routine. So, I did ImagineaCon in Gallatin, ALAAC in New Orleans, Destrehan Comic Con, visited and helped family, and then MechaCon. And then as soon as I got back, I had an open house for Nashville Community Ed because I'm teaching a comic course this fall. And then I was away again for a week. So I was gone for 2 months and it drove me crazy. I'm used to being gone for like 2 weeks at a time. Usually when I go visit my family in Louisiana, I'm there for 2 weeks. But this 2-month trip was ridiculous. By the end, I felt like I was clawing up the walls. I was so eager to get back to producing work. Because as you guys know, I'm a freelance artist. I do kidlit art and I also do comics. And if you are an artist who doesn't have a steady job, you're really, really reliant on visibility. And my visibility here on the internet is not the best. And I try to mitigate that by sharing art daily on my Twitter and on my Instagram. But because I was away, my time was not my own for various reasons, and I wasn't able to draw, I wasn't able to ink, I certainly wasn't able to paint. So all the things that I also do for work are often things I do as my downtime, my relaxation, my way to reward myself. I love making pretty things. I know you guys feel the same way. And for me, inking and painting are kind of meditative. So without the ability to really do those things the way I like to do them, in the time frame I like to do them, I was definitely going kind of crazy. So I did try to prep because initially when this started, I was only going to be gone for 2 weeks. It's just things kept getting tacked on and I didn't feel like I had the ability to say no. So my prep was really for like a 2 week to 1 month span, but I want to talk to you guys about that a little bit. So I tried to schedule and write as much as possible ahead of time. I worked on Kara in advance, so I basically had my Kara paid for chapter 8. I had everything done up until penciling the actual watercolor pages. So that's something that I could bring with me on the road and kind of do from a hotel room or do in Louisiana. So that was prepared and ready to go. And it was about a month's worth of work there because it was like 31 pages and I can pencil anywhere from 1 to 2 pages a day when I'm traveling because my time isn't my own and I often only have like an hour or two to actually work on anything. But I never intended to be gone for 2 months straight. Fortunately, 7-inch Kara had a huge buffer at the time, and my YouTube also has a fairly large buffer, and it just needs scheduling. And I also had some help. I had somebody who was downloading my videos from my editor so things wouldn't get backed up on his end and uploading them to YouTube for me. So all I had to do, well, I say all, but it's actually a lot of work, was write the descriptions, do the cards, do my end caps, and get everything scheduled and then promote it, which is actually very difficult when I'm in Louisiana, and I was in Louisiana for about a month because my internet access in Luling is garbage. Like, it's basically non-existent, and my cell phone reception is also garbage in Luling, so it's like I'm in a black hole. I won't get emails, I won't get messages. It's very frustrating, and when I move back, I'm certainly not going to go with Cox Cable. Unfortunately, I couldn't maintain the blog buffer. I had about a month's worth of content written, and although I solicited for paid guest posts, everyone flaked, which is not uncommon with my blog. People are super excited, and then they flake. Or conversely, I get a solid like 4 people, and then another 4 people email me stuff that I didn't approve, that I feel like I have to pay them for because I pay for guest posts. So I don't like soliciting for guest posts so much anymore because I can't count on it. So I just couldn't maintain the blog buffer. I just couldn't write fast enough. I didn't have the time to research. I didn't have the time to produce. I wasn't at home. I didn't have good internet access. Things happen. 2 months was just too long to be away. So As you guys can tell, I was definitely frustrated by that. So I have some suggestions for maintaining and preserving some semblance of a work routine. Quite frequently, I am working away from home. I just am not used to working in various locations spread out over 2 months. Flying, driving, flying, driving, flying, driving. Usually driving for 8 to 10 hours at a time. It's hard to work around that. So I do have some suggestions for how you guys can do this on a more moderate schedule. And these are suggestions kind of based on my own experiences doing conventions over the years, traveling, visiting family, helping family out, that kind of thing. So prep and plan ahead of time, like we talked about. Have a clear idea of how long you'll be gone. That is something I did not have because things kept getting kind of sprung on me. Have a clear idea how long you'll be gone and how much content you need. And having a schedule book can really help make that visual and help you make concrete plans and concrete lists. If you're soliciting for guest posts and guest art, let them know about a month ahead of time because it takes time to make these things, and offer some form of incentive. I always pay for my guest posts. Either I send them art supplies or I send them gift art, or I pay them, and my going rate is $30 a guest post because I think it's unfair to ask people to create and to labor and not offer a concrete reward. And exposure is not a concrete reward, and promising you'll pay them back, you'll get them back is not a concrete reward. So I like to give people money, and that's partially why I have a Patreon, is it actually helps me generate money so that I can pay people for the content that they create for me. So I definitely believe in letting them know in advance, asking them to pitch me an idea so we can kind of work on it together, and then paying them for their work. Modify your work output to reflect the time you're gone. It's always harder to work remotely, and it takes an emotional and physical tax. And for those of you who don't have to work remotely, I don't know how I can explain this in a way because it's one of those things you have to experience. After you've been driving for 10 hours across 4 states, you don't want to draw. You're tired. You're physically tired. Your body's all messed up. Your rhythms are screwy. After you've been flying all day, you're maybe not as tired as you would be if you drove, but you're tired. And yeah, there's things you can do on the plane, but like you can't pull out like an 11 by 14 comic page on the plane. You can't pull that out in the car either and hope that it's going to look as good as if you were working from home. So you really have to keep in mind that you're not at home. You don't have access to the things you have at home. You don't have the time you have at home. And unless you feel like going out and buying a bunch of things, you just have to accept that and kind of work around it. If possible, reward yourself for progress made, any progress made. For some people, like a little silver star in their planner is a great incentive. In fact, I need to go buy some silver stars because that's a good incentive for me. But even just treating yourself with something you enjoy, a candy bar, a walk around the block, going to see a movie, playing a game, anything that you enjoy, reward yourself for the work you've done, because when you're working remotely, it's so much harder to work and you have to reinvest in yourself. Otherwise, you get burnt out. You get tapped out. Let's see. Notify customers that you'll be away. I don't share when I'm traveling publicly on social media. I'm really uncomfortable doing that. There's definitely a correlation between home break-ins when you let people know you're not going to be at home. So I actually don't do that myself. Now, if I'm working with like a commission customer closely, I definitely let them know that I'm going to be out of town. And I have a couple of customers who frequently commission me. So if we're in the middle of a commission, I always let them know what I know about my schedule because communication is important. If you're comfortable sharing that kind of information publicly, then it's a great way to keep people informed, because I had people asking me about the NATO scholarship. I had people asking me about videos. I had problems popping up with my Patreon that I couldn't fix in Luling because internet access was so bad. It would have been great to let people know, but that wasn't something I'm comfortable doing. Try to carve out downtime and free time to relax. Now, a lot of ADHD people are one of 3 things, obviously, introverts, ambiverts, or extroverts. So know who you are. I'm an ambivert, so theoretically, let's say I spent the whole day with my mom. We were running my aunt and my brother to doctor's appointments. We had like 2 doctor's appointments that day. things kind of blew up in the car. Things kind of get heated. They often get heated in my family. So there was a lot of arguing, a lot of screaming. So even though I'm an ambivert, I'm overstimulated. I want to get away from everyone. I need 2 hours of quiet downtime. So for my mental health, it's important to carve out that 2 hours of quiet downtime. Or maybe go for a quiet walk around the block, just something to help me de-stress and decompress, because that's a lot going on. Now, for some of you guys, when you're traveling, it means a lot of solitary time, and you're extroverts. So if possible, make time to go hang out with people or go be out and around people, even just hanging out at a mall. I mean, are malls relevant anymore? I don't know. Retail archaeology would have you think not. But I've seen some pretty bustling malls. Or hang out at a bar, just anywhere where you can get that social stimulation that you need. So know your needs, know what type of person you are, and be honest with yourself and treat yourself with what you need. Now, I know that's not always possible. Like, again, always talking about Luling. Luling is a very quiet town that's dead after 7 o'clock. And to find any sort of stimulation or action or entertainment, you have to drive 40 minutes into New Orleans. Or maybe you can drive almost 40 minutes into Marrero, but it's still a pretty significant chunk of time. So I found it very easy to cheat myself of the stimulation that I needed because it was such a pain. But I came home intensely burnt out. So kind of take that in mind, and don't be afraid to ask for the accommodations you need either. Communication runs both ways. Let the people you know, let the people you're traveling with know what you need. And it can be hard sometimes when we're stressed out, overstimulated, burnt out, to say it in like an appropriate, kind way. Like, a lot of people take offense when I'm just blunt and I'm like, I need to stop now. But they'll ignore me when I say it politely. So sometimes it's fine tuning and tweaking and finding a way to communicate your needs with the people in your group that they can understand and they can also respect. But don't be afraid to stand up for your needs either. So protect your work time and don't feel guilty demanding that you have free time to work uninterrupted if possible. This is particularly true for those of us who go home to help family, or those of us who go on family vacations. Some of us don't ever get to take a real vacation, and some of us are okay with that. You know, having a couple of hours during the day by the pool, or having a couple of hours a day to read a book or whatever, that's all the vacation we really want and we really need, and we enjoy working. Working gives us validity, and it lets us feel like we have some control and agency over our lives. So again, communicate with the people you're around. Don't try to bottle it up. Don't try to stuff it down. Don't just get along to get along, especially if you're going to be there for a long time. It's okay to be like, hey, I've got X, Y, and Z to do today. I need to do this. I need this amount of time. Most people are more than happy to accommodate, especially if it's like a discrete amount of time and you're able to articulate what you need. And that's another reason why having a planner, mine is right here, having a planner where you can figure this stuff out is really helpful. Be kind to yourself. Working remotely is hard. Prepping to work remotely is hard. And you're basically working double time for the same pay, if any pay. So be kind to yourself. Don't beat yourself up. You're not lazy. You're not procrastinating. You're doing the best you can with what you have, and you need to be kind to your own mental health. Invest in tech that helps you work remotely. So I use the Surface Pro 3 for my digital drawing and my Galaxy S7 to record while on the go. Now, with my Galaxy S7, you guys can definitely tell the quality is suffering, but it does allow me to do some work, and it's great for vlogs and my life with ADHD and art sound off vlogs, that kind of stuff. It's great for that. Nobody expects better for that. I edit using Action Director, but Samsung has improved their native movie editing app so that you can actually rotate videos again and actually edit. So you might want to go with that if you're using a Samsung device. So be kind to yourself, limit your travels if possible, and do things you find rewarding when you can. And maybe limit your time on the road and don't do a 2-month stint. It's okay to say no if it gets to be too much. And if other people are like, well, this is the only time I can do it. Well, if you have to respect their time, they need to respect your time as well. It's okay to demand that other people treat you with the sort of respect that they want to be treated. Just try to be respectful and kind about it if you can. I know that not all of us come from families where that is understood or acceptable. I know that ADHD people often come from ADHD families, and there can be a lot of butting of heads. I understand that, and I'm not claiming that these suggestions are just going to automatically solve all your problems, but I think respecting yourself, respecting your boundaries, and respecting your needs can go a long way, whether you're working at home or you're working on the road. So I hope this video was helpful for you guys. I will also share a little bit of TMI, I guess. Some of you guys like this and some of you guys don't. I'm not always comfortable sharing my failures because I want to inspire you guys and not depress you guys, but I know that by sharing some of my failures, many of you guys feel like you're not alone. So, all right. So the thing about the 2-month stint is it was kind of an exercise in impulsivity. Imaginicon was planned, but it was one of those things that kind of morphed. Originally, they were gonna give me a free table, and they wanted me to do a panel where I talk about my comic. And then they changed their minds, and they wanted me to do a workshop for an indeterminate age group of children with an indeterminate number of attendees on like a physical make it and draw it workshop on zines, which is very hard to do when you don't know how old your group is or how many of them are showing up and you don't have a lot of time. Like, they kept shrinking the time I had, and it's just a lot harder than going up there with my comic pages and talking about making a comic. But I did it anyway, and I actually really enjoyed it, and I had a good time, and I recorded that workshop for those of you who are interested, but that was a lot more work than what had been pitched to me. And then I turned around and I drove to ALAAC, which is a librarian conference, and it kind of travels, and it was in New Orleans at that time. I drove to New Orleans for ALAAC, so that was like a 10-hour drive each way, and I basically sat in a cold convention hall and talked to people, which I enjoyed doing, but that's not really a good chance to work. I brought work with me, and I was actually doing freelance work in my evenings because I'd already accepted that job and I needed the money. But it's hard to do both, especially at shows. And that's a longer show. It's like a 5-day show. So with driving time, I was gone for about a week. And then at ALAAC, I found out about Destrehan Comic Con. And I've talked to you guys about this a lot. And I talked about it in my recap. And I talked about it in my ALAAC recap. But I'm from St. Charles Parish. Destrehan is in St. Charles Parish. St. Charles Parish used to be very anti-comics. I mean, not like Footloose anti-dancing, but just like, it's not a form of art, it's not a form of literature, why are you wasting your time? So I was really excited to find out about Destrehan Comic Con, but unfortunately it was literally like the very next week. But I felt like it was an opportunity I couldn't pass up. I really wanted to be part of St. Charles Parish's first comic show, and I really wanted to be a visible force of like, hey, I'm from this area, I make comics set in this area. I wanted to give that visibility to like a younger group of people so that they had someone they could like associate with. So I basically begged for them to give me a table and turned around and booked my airline flight like as soon as I got back to Nashville, and had to turn around and not only prep for Destrehan, but prep for MechaCon, because I decided I was going to stay in Louisiana from Destrehan to MechaCon, which is about a month long. Now, I'm staying with family, so it's not like I was paying for a hotel, but I might as well have been, because every time I stay in Louisiana, it costs me like $2,000. Like, it is super expensive. I end up paying for a lot of my family's meals. I end up paying for my high school cat Remy's, all of her vet stuff. It's really expensive for me to do that. So, and then I was basically trying to prep for being gone for a month instead of being gone for 2 weeks like I'd originally planned, by having a YouTube buffer and having a blog buffer and having my Kara stuff accessible. So, you know, that was difficult to varying stages, and I was also doing con prep at the time. So I was really juggling a lot, and I was already kind of stressed out when I left. Destrehan Comic Con actually went really well, and I had a really good time, and I kind of tried to use the rest of my time in Louisiana to both help my family and to con prep. And visiting my family, as much as I love them, is always really stressful, and I think a month was too long because there's a lot going on. My aunt lives with my mom and my brother because she has lupus and she needs people to take care of her, and her lupus was acting up really bad, so she was showing dementia-like symptoms, so she really needed a lot of help. And my younger brother is also ADHD, so he has a lot of needs. So it just ended up being a lot of writing in the car and not being able to work on my stuff. So it kind of threw off my schedule, but I tried to be a good sport about it. And then MechaCon was awful. You guys can watch the recap for that. It was awful, and I don't want to talk about it. And then as soon as I got back to Nashville, I basically left 2 days after MechaCon. I didn't actually leave myself any time to recover because the show was so bad. It took a really big emotional toll on me. And then I basically turned around and scheduled an interview to talk with the head of HR for the St. Charles Parish School System because I'm looking at teaching. And I got a lot of information that I didn't really like. It was basically a lot of like, you either have to prove your artistic mastery or you have to go back to school because your MFA doesn't count for anything. And there's a lot of other teachers who want that position. So it was kind of like a lot was piling up on me. And then I flew back to Nashville and I had to turn around and prepare for the open house for Nashville Community Ed. And I'd never done a Nashville Community Ed open house, so I created like these handouts explaining my class, and just some other stuff kind of popped up, like really I thought my class was going to be 12 classes long, and nope, surprise, it's only 6, but we don't tell you except at the open house, so all your materials are wrong. Just kind of like that kind of thing, which for like, I know like for like non-ADHD people sometimes are better with kind of accepting and going with the flow, but for me, I need that kind of information way in advance, and I need it not told to me in a public setting like that because I need time to process it privately. And that's, to me, that's kind of a heavy blow. I'm getting paid the same amount regardless, but it's like half the classes, and I want to cover a lot of material. I want this to be a really good class. So that kind of threw a lot on me. And then I was away for a week, and I wasn't able to work on any of the things I needed to work on, and my time was not my own. So I basically spent 2 months either doing con stuff or doing just stuff for other people, being on other people's time schedule. And I really feel like I have slipped in like a lot of ways. So I'm trying to get caught back up, but I'm also trying not to beat myself up too much. And I'm also currently dealing with a depressive cycle. And I've gone through these enough. I know it'll pass. I know I'll be okay. But like doing stuff requires a lot of energy, and being personable requires a lot of energy, and being an artist on the internet has all these implications of like you have to be friendly and you have to be kind and you have to look at everything everybody sends you and all this other stuff. And it's like I barely have the energy or the willpower right now to do the things I have to do. So I'm kind of dealing with that, and I'm actually going to talk about that in another My Life with ADHD, which is coming up. But being gone for 2 weeks and then hitting a bad depressive cycle is why I haven't been keeping this updated. I've recorded stuff and then watched it and didn't like the tone that I took. And I'm not somebody who thinks I always have to be happy on the internet, but like I was really, really bitter. And I want this to be kind of an inspiring series for you guys. I don't want you guys to feel like I'm angry at you or beating you guys up. So I nixed those videos, which is why I am re-recording this. So I want to thank you guys so much for watching. I hope sharing these experiences with you guys has been useful, helpful, and informative. I kind of feel like the only things I could have done differently is not do MechaCon, and I won't in the future, and only stay in Louisiana for 2 weeks, and maybe say no to the last being away for a week thing, because the timing was just really bad. I thought I would be ready for a break, but I was just really ready to get back into work. And being on someone else's time schedule made me really feel like I didn't have any agency or say on my own life. And I also didn't feel like I had a place to say, no, I don't want to do that. So without coming across as really rude and ungrateful. So hopefully you guys can kind of learn from my experiences. Maybe you can make better decisions with your time than I made these past 2 months. But I hope this was useful, helpful, and inspiring for you guys. And I hope to see you again next week with another My Life with ADHD vlog, because I'm going to try to get back on track. So thank you guys so much for watching. Have a great day, guys. Bye!